Hello and welcome back to me actually having a finished drawing this time, or welcome if you're new. Kind of for a certain definition of finished. I'm still definitely going for a kind of purposely messy style here, but for the first time in a few weeks, it's something I wouldn't consider a sketch. So I spent 2 hours on this, and I feel like I got to a point where I could consider it like just done and not like, okay, that was a test run, or okay, that was, just something I did really quick. Which I've been struggling to find motivation, and I've been struggling to like get an idea that I really wanted to spend some time with. And I did struggle with that this week as well. Art block is the bane of my existence right now, but I did just kind of think, okay, I've been drawing more semi-realistically, and I haven't done kind of a profile view in that style yet. I did several, had a more cartoony style I was trying out. So I wanted to do that because, hey, I haven't done it yet. That means it's a good idea, right? But it actually turned out, I do like it. I did things a little differently, which you'll see later with like how I finished it, or didn't. I was talking about like the finishing work because I usually do paint overs. You'll see. So last week when I was doing a sketch, I used a kind of brush that comes in Procreate that does like, kind of has a cross-hatching effect. And I liked it, and I thought about using it this week, but I decided against it. So this is all still the round brush and then a tapered version of the round brush. But what I did take from it is I wanted, rather than just like loose scribbling, I did want to incorporate like actual hatching. Not cross-hatching, we're not going crazy here. That's just, cross-hatching is fun, but it also takes all of your time. I wanted to eventually sleep today. So I didn't cross-hatch, I just hatched. But I kind of did that, and then I actually, because I was a little neater with that, I do leave that. I do a very, very minor paint over. Only a few highlights get painted over. And I leave most of this kind of sketch layer visible. Which is slightly different, because before, again, I painted over everything. I would leave things slightly messy, but you wouldn't really see the sketch. You wouldn't see this layer. Which I like the look of that. I also like the look of this. I feel like they're kind of different, but interesting. Yeah. You can see me kind of futzing because I decided she was going to be looking up. And then I realized for whatever reason, I didn't just twist the canvas so that it was straight up and down. I just drew most of her face when it was at an angle. And then I struggled a lot. So you've already seen me taking advantage of the fact that this was a digital artwork quite heavily, and that's not over yet. I'm gonna make more mistakes, don't worry. And I decided that it was a little bit bland and kind of plain, so I'm giving her earrings. I do have to do them over. I give her the same kind of earrings, but I didn't like how they looked that time. I needed a do-over. It was really just that, like I said, it looked kind of bland. I didn't want to do any kind of jewelry around the neck because I liked that interrupted line there from the chin down to the, upper chest. So I gave her earrings, which occasionally I do. Just come up with it. Something for visual interest, please, anything. This is the point where I realized I don't know what hair is or how I want it to be. So I was like, do I want a messy hair? No, it looks awful. I hated it. And so I was like, okay, it has to swoop back. It has to do something. It has to have a direction. I was feeling real directionless. I was like, is it a ponytail? It's not. Surprise, it's actually a bun. It's like a messy bun at the base of her neck. I've been doing a lot of those. I did one of these last week. Like, there's a reason I came to this. It's that I kind of already knew how to do it. I gave her a little bit more kind of puff up front, just because her hair is quite fluffy. That's all over, like, compared to the skull shape I drew. I kind of regret that. I wish it was pulled back slightly tighter, even though it is messy, so it wouldn't make too much sense. I just don't feel like that looks the best. I feel like having it kind of sleeked back a little bit more in front and then messier behind would have been, I think, a bit better. But then, you know, if you get in the weeds on that, you're gonna spend your entire life nitpicking everything you've ever done. So I'm trying not to think about it, but yeah, I'm not sure about her hair. I made a lot of decisions I wasn't ready for. So I just darkened her eyebrow. It shouldn't be plural, because you can only see one. Because it didn't really match kind of her hair color. And I'm so sorry if you can hear the train in the background. It's where I live. I can't change it. So here I am, just kind of filling out the eyelashes and being like, how much is too much? Because I want it to be right on the edge. And kind of making sure I got her lower lashes and that they weren't too chunky. And then I adjusted it because I'm like, no, it doesn't look right with her eye shape. And here I am. I decided that I couldn't have a white background anymore. And so I colored in with the skin tone, but I actually, as part of a shadowing, I'm leaving part of it transparent, which comes back to bite me a little bit because I changed the background color. So obviously all of that changes. In the end, I don't think it was like a bad thing, but it looks awkward for a little bit. Yeah, you can see it becomes way more obvious because I lower it. Like, the reason I changed the background was that I felt it was too similar to her skin tone, like in value, and it wasn't visually interesting. So I wanted to bring it a little darker, so she popped out more. And here I am, kind of adding a little bit to the shadows, and futzing and giving some warmth to her features, and the highlight is actually a really, like, kind of yellowy color, which I wanted to do. Because, like, I go between, like, blushing with pinks and blushing with corals and orangier colors, and this is definitely an orangier color kind of week. So I felt like kind of leaning into the warmth would be a good idea. So here I am doing kind of the whites of her eyes, which I always struggle with the whites of the eyes because, like, you don't want it to be too light because then the highlights don't show up well and they don't look impactful. But you don't want to be too dark or else they just look wrong, especially if you have, like, somewhat lighter skin. Like, she's kind of pale. I didn't want... Yeah, you run the risk of the whites of the eyes being darker than the skin tone, and that's not a good look. Here I'm just kind of adding some highlights to the eye. Futzing. This is actually part of the very minor paint over, where I do kind of add the detail over the eyelashes and the highlights on the eyes and all that. I do a little bit more later with this, but I'm just kind of adding some definition to the eyelashes because that's the thing about too much with eyelashes. A lot of it comes down to, is there definition or is it just a block? So I decided to add definition to pull it back from being too much. I'm just kind of filling out the hair color a little bit so it doesn't look as transparent. I'm adding highlights to her, earrings. Sorry. So that they, like, stand out. More highlights to her eyes. I didn't feel like they had life to them. I didn't feel like they popped. I think about adding highlights to her mouth, and I just don't like it. So here I think I added a little bit of paint over to her dress, and here I'm adding some shadows to her hair and her eyelashes. About the dress, I'm not sure I'm sold on it. Like, I feel like it's too bright or too saturated for what it is, because it's not the focal point. That's why I left it rougher. But I feel like the color I picked maybe wasn't the best. but live and learn. Well, that's how it turned out. I hope you enjoyed. I hope to see you back next week, because I just keep doing this. Goodbye.